What is up guys, my name is Justin and I'm back with a new album review. Cat and Andy, better known as Bubble Tea and Cigarettes, recently released their first album called There's Nothing But Pleasure. So I've listened to their 5 singles that they dropped prior to this album release, which first dropped all the way back in 2020. And till the point of their last release, I've been enjoying it so far, so I can tell you that I've been really looking forward to this album release. So get comfy because we're about to dive into my review of Bubble Tea and Cigarettes and their album called There's Nothing But Pleasure. For anyone not familiar with Bubble Tea and Cigarettes, they are a duo who are known for their dreamy and pitch shift vocals over these jazzy and shoegaze type beats. So when it comes to their music, I feel like you either vibe with them or you don't. And I'm saying this because when it comes to their vocals, they put quite a lot of reverb on their vocals. And because of this, you can't always clearly hear what they are singing about. In my opinion, it is really cool, but I can totally understand why others might not be into this. And you could describe the genre that they fit in as dream pop or something like lo-fi indie. The moment when I heard the opening track There's Nothing But Pleasure, it really brought me back to Spain, where I actually saw Bubble Tea and Cigarettes live for the very first time. This was also the first time that they actually performed this track. And yeah, what can I say, I love the track right from that moment. It really has something magical going. I really like how well Cat and Andy's vocals blend together on this track. When it comes to the instrumentals on this album, I gotta say that almost throughout this whole album, it pretty much has the same vibe going. Jazzy drums with dreamy vocals and sweet guitar riffs. But you can actually find some really cool little details on tracks like Santa Monica, Cigarette Butt, and He Asked Me to Quit Smoking. On the track Santa Monica, for example, you find this nice and playful violin melody in the background. And you also hear these Latin type percussions. You know, the ones that you hear when watching a flamenco performance or something like that. On the track Cigarette Butt, you also find some nice and more emotional violins. I'm actually really glad that they added those violins because it works so well with these tracks. And on the track He Asked Me to Quit Smoking, you hear this really super cool and beautiful guitar riff. I was absolutely blown away when I heard it the first time. And almost, I think near the end, you hear this James Bond type guitar riff. I think if you have watched the movies, you know exactly what I mean. In conclusion, Bubble Tea and Cigarettes found a way to keep me in an emotional state for a good 35 minutes with these tracks. Like I mentioned before, they really offer a unique sound when it comes to their dreamy vocals with the extra reverb and the different pitches. And the thing that I'm about to say might be more a personal preference, but I would have loved if there was more variation in the drum patterns, for example. I really felt like they were pretty much the same throughout the whole album on every single song. I mean, if you listen back to it, you might notice what I mean. But other than that, I think the instrumentals sounded really good, especially the ones that I mentioned before with these little details like the violin, the percussions, and these surprising guitar riffs. And that's why I'm giving this album a 9. So I shared a lot of my opinions, and now I would like to hear what you think of this project. Feel free to leave a comment about it, and also feel free to let me know what other album or EP I should review next, especially from an underrated or underground artist, because that's what I love. And that's all. I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.